Hey everyone, welcome to English Pod, where we make learning English fun with How I Met Your Mother. In this series, I'll break down keywords, slang, idioms, and cultural references from each episode to help you improve your English naturally. Watch before or after the episode to boost your understanding. Subscribe and turn on notifications. Let's dive in.
We're diving into How I Met Your Mother,
Okay.
Season 1, Episode 7, Matchmaker.
Classic.
And we're using this episode as a way for us to, unlock the secrets of grammar through examples you might actually remember.
Love that, yeah.
Okay, so
It's a fun way to look at it.
it is a fun way to look at.
Because I think a lot of times people think grammar is like
Oh, it's so boring.
dusty textbook.
Yeah.
But what's interesting is how grammar, even though it can be kind of rigid and formulaic, it's really the invisible framework of everyday conversation,
Yeah,
right? Even sitcoms.
absolutely.
And so when you start to look closely at these moments, you really start to see how these concepts are working.
Right.
To add layers to the comedy.
Yeah.
Characterization, everything.
Totally. So let's jump right in.
Okay.
Let's look at present perfect tense. Now, the present perfect tense, think about this, experiences that have shaped who you are now. It's connecting the past to the present.
Yeah.
Okay, so what's interesting about the present perfect tense, it's used for life experiences, actions with present relevance, even if the exact timing is kind of unspecified. Like you've never tried a matchmaking service.
That's a great example from the show. And the grammatical structure there is have or has plus the past participle.
Right.
And you see how it asks about a past experience, but one that's directly relevant to the current conversation.
Yeah.
And to the character's situation.
So it's not just about what happened, but its impact now.
Exactly.
On you in that moment.
Uh,
Okay, so moving on. Let's look at modal verbs.
All right.
Should, would, could.
These are great.
We hear these all the time. Giving advice, exploring possibilities, softening requests.
Exactly.
Verbiage.
Should often expresses advice right.
Yeah.
You should give it a shot. And notice how it kind of subtly guides the other person towards a particular course of action.
It does.
Often enters into hypothetical situations. Would never do that.
Right.
So it's like painting a picture of this unreal situation almost, and then could suggest possibility.
We could just forget about it.
Right, exactly. So it's
Yeah.
like opening up options in a polite way.
So it's interesting how these tiny little words can really influence the tone.
Absolutely. And they're always followed by the base form of the verb, and they really do reveal the speaker's attitude.
Yeah. Okay, so let's get into conditional sentences.
Okay.
Type 2 specifically.
Right.
These are your what-if scenarios.
The hypothetical.
Really getting into the realm of the imaginary.
Exactly.
So explain this one.
Okay, so conditional sentences, type 2, they deal with unreal or hypothetical situations, and the structure is if plus the past simple, then would plus the base verb.
Okay.
Okay, so there's a line in the show. If she were real, she would be perfect for me.
I love that line.
It's a great line.
Yeah.
And you can see how if she were real, immediately signals that we're in this imaginary world.
Right.
Right? And then the consequence, she would be perfect, follows from that unreal condition. So it kind of reveals the character's desires.
Yeah, his fantasies.
Their fantasies, yeah.
Totally.
It's a great example
It is a really great example.
of type 2.
Yeah. Okay, moving on to passive voice.
Right.
Now, this one shifts the focus, highlighting the action rather than who's doing it.
Exactly.
So explain this one.
Yeah, so what's interesting about the passive voice is when it's used, so the focus shifts to the action itself. In the show, they say the matches are made by a computer algorithm.
Okay.
So the structure there is to be plus the past participle.
Okay.
And so you see how the emphasis is on how the matches happen. And the actor, the person who programmed the algorithm,
Right.
becomes less important.
Right. So in this case, the computer is not important.
Exactly.
It's the matches that are important.
It's the action.
The action of the match being made? I see. Okay, so let's talk gerunds.
All right.
Now, these are those ing verbs that act like nouns.
I love gerunds.
They're so interesting.
They're fun.
They are fun. So think about everyday activities.
Yeah.
Suddenly, they're the subject of a sentence. So break this down.
Okay, so what's key here is that you have a verb form that takes on the role of a noun.
Oh, okay.
So consider the sentence. Dating in New York is hard.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
So true.
Here, dating, the ing form of to date,
Right.
is the subject of the sentence. Right. So it's a
Yeah.
really concise way to express a general truth or observation.
Right. And I think a lot of people like dating as a verb.
Right. It feels like a verb.
So to see it
Uh-huh.
as a noun, it's like, whoa, wait a minute.
It's a shift.
What's happening here?
Yeah, it can be confusing.
Yeah. Okay. So last but not least, tag questions.
Right.
These little add-ons are all about seeking your agreement
Hmm.
or pulling you into the conversation.
Exactly.
So tell me about this one.
Okay, so tag questions are these short questions that we add to the end of statements, often to seek confirmation or to engage the listener. And a good example is, this is a little crazy, isn't it?
Right.
Right. So the structure there is statement plus the opposite auxiliary. So if the statement's positive, the tag is negative,
Mm-hmm.
plus the subject pronoun.
Got it.
And you can just hear how it invites agreement,
Yeah.
creates that connection with the listener.
It does. So you see, even in this lighthearted banter of a sitcom, these grammar principles are constantly at work, shaping how the characters communicate
Right.
and how you, the audience, understand their interactions.
Absolutely. And by noticing these elements in the media you consume, I think you develop a deeper, more intuitive understanding of how language functions
Yeah,
to create meaning.
absolutely. So consider this. How does a more conscious awareness of these grammatical structures subtly enhance not just your understanding of dialogue, but also your appreciation for the craft of storytelling itself?
It's something to think about.
Yeah. It is something to think about.
For sure.
And that's the thing. It's the unseen architecture of how we connect
Yeah, with
each other. I love that. Through language.
Here's a curated list of vocabulary words and phrases from How I Met Your Mother Season 1, Episode 7, Matchmaker, to help improve English skills. Each word and phrase includes its meaning and a usage example. 1. Matchmaker. Meaning, a person who arranges romantic relationships or marriages between others. Example, Ted visited a matchmaker to find his perfect partner. 2. Compatible. Meaning, able to exist or work together without conflict. Example, the matchmaker said Ted and the woman were 9.6% compatible. 3. Desperate. Meaning, feeling or showing a hopeless sense of needing something very badly. Example, Barney said Ted looked desperate for going to a matchmaking service. 4. Nonsense. Meaning, ideas, statements, or beliefs that are foolish or untrue. Example, Lily dismissed Marshall's superstitions as nonsense. 5. Appointment. Meaning, a scheduled meeting at a specific time. Example, Ted had an appointment with the matchmaking service. 6. Strike out, idiom. Meaning, to fail, especially in romance or attempts at something. Example, Barney said, Ted, you struck out again. 7. Jackpot. Meaning, a big win or a great success. Example, Ted thought he hit the jackpot when he found someone with a 9.6 compatibility score. 8. Set someone up, phrasal verb. Meaning, to arrange a date for someone. Example, the matchmaker set Ted up with a promising match. 9. Crushed, informal. Meaning, very disappointed or emotionally hurt. Example, Ted was crushed when he found out his match was already engaged. 10. Stalker. Meaning, someone who follows or harasses another person obsessively. Example, Lily joked that the neighbor might be a stalker. 11. Infestation. Meaning, a large number of insects or animals causing damage or annoyance. Example, Marshall thought their apartment had a cockroach infestation. 12. Urban legend. Meaning, a humorous or horrific story circulated as if true, often widely believed. Example, Marshall believed in an urban legend about a giant cockroach. Here's a list of useful phrases and expressions from How I Met Your Mother Season 1, Episode 7, Matchmaker, along with their meanings and example sentences. 1. It's worth a shot. Meaning, it's worth trying, even if it might not work. Example, Ted wasn't sure about the matchmaking service, but decided it was worth a shot. 2. Go out on a limb. Meaning, to take a risk or do something unconventional. Example, Ted went out on a limb by trusting a matchmaking algorithm. 3. There's no shame in. Meaning, It's acceptable or normal to do something. Don't feel embarrassed. Example, Barney said, there's no shame in needing help to find love. 4. Strike out, slang. Meaning, to fail, especially in dating or flirting. Example, Barney teased Ted for striking out again with women. 5. Hit the jackpot. Meaning, to be very lucky or successful. Example, Ted thought he hit the jackpot with a high compatibility score. 6. Out of your league. Meaning, someone who is considered too attractive or impressive for someone else. Example, Barney joked that the woman Ted liked was out of his league. 7. Don't get your hopes up. Meaning, don't expect too much to avoid being disappointed. Example, the matchmaker told Ted not to get his hopes up. 8. No way in hell. Meaning, absolutely not, definitely not going to happen. Example, Barney said, there's no way in hell I'd go to a matchmaker. 9. Creep someone out. Meaning, to make someone feel uncomfortable or scared. Example, the neighbor story really creeped Lily out. 10. Put yourself out there. Meaning, to make oneself vulnerable, especially in dating or social situations. Example, Marshall encouraged Ted to put himself out there and try dating again.
So you guys really wanted to get a better grasp on some of the stuff they reference in How I Met Your Mother.
Yeah,
And we heard you.
we hear you.
So for this deep dive, we're going to focus in on Season 1, Episode 7, Matchmaker.
Okay.
Our goal, really simple.
Right.
We're going to try to unpack 6 key references, give you like a quick and dirty understanding of what they meant and why the writers put them in the show.
Yeah.
Just to give you a little snapshot of pop culture and social norms in the early 2000s in America.
Right. I mean, like, it's amazing how much context can be packed into just a simple 22-minute sitcom.
Yeah.
And, understanding these references, it isn't just about, getting the jokes. It's about understanding the mindset of the time.
Yeah.
It's like a little time capsule.
Totally. Totally. Okay, let's jump right into it.
Right.
The Bachelor.
Okay.
So Ted, he's a little wary of matchmaking, right?
Right.
Which really kind of ties into this whole Bachelor phenomenon that was sweeping the nation. So for anyone who missed it, The Bachelor is a reality show. It's about one guy dating a ton of women, all competing for him.
Right.
And, it was huge.
Huge.
It's known for being over the top, really produce super dramatic.
Exactly.
And so what's interesting here is how Ted's kind of skepticism about this whole thing,
Right.
it might have mirrored a lot of people's feelings at the time.
Absolutely.
Because you have this show, The Bachelor, and it's, creating this like really manufactured romance.
Yeah.
And it kind of sparks this debate of like, could genuine connection really be like created just for, our entertainment?
Mm-hmm.
And Ted's initial doubts really tap into that, I think.
Oh, totally.
All right, next up, we've got the X-Files.
Okay.
Do you remember the weird neighbor subplot?
Yeah.
So that's a total link to the X-Files,
Yeah.
right? Which was like a hugely popular sci-fi show about FBI agents investigating all this paranormal stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Aliens, spooky mysteries.
Yeah.
And the humor in that subplot comes from like putting the very normal search for a partner, right, next to the craziness of like a potential, monster next door.
Right.
And it really relies on everyone having that same like shared understanding of the X-Files as like the definition of creepy and unexplained.
Absolutely. Everyone knew the X-Files theme song.
Oh, yeah.
Like, everyone knew it.
Totally.
Yeah.
Okay, then we have Match.com and dating services.
Yeah.
So back in the early 2000s, online dating was getting really big.
Right.
And Match.com was like the king,
Yeah, the OG.
And so Ted, he goes to this professional matchmaker.
Right.
And that shows like a different way, a more old school way of trying to find someone.
Absolutely.
Compared to this whole new online world that was popping up.
Right.
So this part of the episode really shows us this moment of transition and how people were thinking about relationships.
Yeah.
Going from those more traditional routes to like dipping their toes into the digital world. Yeah.
There was this sense of like, let's try everything and see what works.
Exactly. And each one had its, pluses and minuses.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, let's talk about some slang.
Okay.
Jackpot.
Jackpot.
You hear that and you think, hitting it big in gambling.
Oh, yeah, the casino.
Right. Big win.
Yeah, yeah.
And in the episode, Ted's like, oh my gosh, I think I've hit the jackpot with this match.
Right.
And it's that feeling of like instant crazy good luck.
Yeah, like out of nowhere, boom.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
It's perfect. The writer's using jackpot that way.
Yeah.
It like perfectly captures that feeling of excitement.
Yes.
That, whoa, I found the one, like totally out of the blue.
Like fate, almost.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It really reflects how, we tend to see romantic success.
Right.
It's like a game of chance sometimes.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Okay, next up, out of your league.
Okay.
So, Barney, he uses this to describe this woman Ted's crushing on.
Right.
And it's basically a sports term.
Mm-hmm. And it's saying, like, you're not good enough to even compete with this person.
Right.
Usually, they're talking about attractiveness or status.
Yeah, like you're playing the minor leagues and they're, major leaguers.
Right, exactly. And out of your league is really interesting because it shows us this kind of anxiety that people have about, like, who's worthy of who.
Yeah, it's kind of judgy.
Yeah. And, they say it in a playful way sometimes.
Right.
But it really does point to these, like, deeper societal perceptions about how relationships are supposed to work.
Absolutely. Like who should be with who and all that.
Yeah, exactly. And these perceived imbalances.
Yeah, totally.
Okay, last one. Stalking.
All right.
So there's these funny bits with Barney at the matchmaking office, right?
Yeah.
And even back then, it was an issue, right?
Yeah.
You can't just, keep giving someone unwanted attention. And of course, now with the internet and everything, the idea of stalking has definitely evolved.
Yeah, it's taken on a whole new dimension.
Right, to include all this online behavior.
Yeah. It's a lot more complex now.
Right. So the show plays it for laughs with, physical comedy.
Right.
But it's important to remember that this idea of, like, crossing boundaries to, try to get with someone was already not cool.
Yeah, even back then it was like, whoa, too far.
Right, exactly. And the digital age has just, like, amplified everything.
For sure.
And made it a lot more complicated to figure out, what's okay and what's not.
Yeah, the lines are definitely blurrier.
Yeah, for sure. So there you have it. 6 cultural, like, touchstones from just one episode.
From just one little episode.
And, seeing how people understood The Bachelor, The X-Files, Match.com, Jackpot, Out of Your League, stalking back then, I mean, it really adds a whole other layer to watching the show.
Here's a synopsis for How I Met Your Mother, Season 1, Episode 7, Matchmaker. Desperate to help Ted find the one, Robin takes him to a matchmaking service run by the confident and quirky Ellen Pierce. While skeptical at first, Ted becomes intrigued when the matchmaker claims to have found his perfect woman, based on a highly scientific algorithm. But when he learns that the woman is already in a relationship, Ted struggles to accept that the perfect match isn't available. Meanwhile, Marshall and Lily become obsessed with a mysterious creature spotted at their apartment window, leading to a hilarious subplot involving a supposed cockamouse. The episode explores the search for love, the idea of soulmates, and how sometimes real life doesn't line up with expectations, even when science is involved.
Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed learning new words, phrases, grammar, and cultural references from How I Met Your Mother. I'll be back with the next lesson soon. Until then, bye.